welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing a repot with me and answering some of your questions from Instagram. If you don't already follow me on Instagram, you can find that information below. I will be repotting two plants today. We have the Anthurium veitchii, also known as the king Anthurium, and also the Anthurium forgetii. These are both juvenile plants. They're both in soil, and I'm going to be transferring them into sphagnum moss. I'm just going to be removing them from the soil, getting as much of the soil off of the roots as possible, and then putting them into a net pot with sphagnum moss, and then that's it. If you guys have any questions about repotting or the repotting process, just leave a comment below or send me a DM on Instagram and I'll try to answer your questions. So let's get started. I'm going to start with the king Anthurium first. I got this from a seller on Facebook and she said it wasn't very happy in this soil mix, even though he's got some new growth. So I'm going to start answering some of the questions that I've gotten on Instagram over the past couple of weeks. I did an AMA recently and I got tons and tons of questions about my watering schedule or just watering your plants in general. I got questions asking if I have a watering schedule, if I use an app, how often do you water your plants. So I'm just going to go over the basics of watering and hope that helps some of your questions. For me specifically, I don't have a watering schedule. I have over 100 houseplants and they're all on different routines and schedules. They all have different needs, and so it doesn't make sense to have like a consistent, I water these plants every Monday, if that makes sense. Just because there are so many and they all have just different needs, like I said. So for you guys asking these questions, it's probably the same. Whether you have 2 plants or 10 plants, they probably all have different watering needs. The best way to tell if your plant needs to be watered, just by looking at it, if the leaves are wilted and wrinkly, it probably needs to be watered. If they look healthy and firm and are not droopy, it's probably good and you don't need to water it that week or that day. Another way to test, I call it the knuckle test. You're going to stick your finger into the soil to your second knuckle. If it comes out of the soil wet or the soil on your finger, you probably don't need to water it. If it comes out dry, you could probably water it. Another way you could tell if you need to water your plants is to just get a moisture meter. Moisture meters are really handy. They get farther down into the pot, especially for those bigger plants that have deeper roots. Those are really helpful as well. They also help measure light, so you can tell if your plant's in an area with direct, low, high light, which could also be helpful and beneficial for your plants. There are some other ways that you can just help remember how to water your plants. There are tons of like houseplant journals. I've seen one specifically, I'll link it below, I don't remember the name right now, but where you can write the plant name, you can draw a picture of it, you can put your specific care notes specific to you and your home, which is awesome because all homes are different, all environments that the plants are in are different, and so my plant that may be thriving right now might not thrive in the house in your condition. You can write it down, write down your watering schedule as specific to you and your house. Check out these roots, just so pretty. They're so big. He's pretty. Yeah, so you can use a journal. You don't even have to use a journal specific for houseplants. I believe that there are apps. I haven't used one myself, but you could use an app. I got just a little backstory. I got this forgetii last summer. It arrived dead, 100% dead. There was one tiny little green spot left. I thought it was a goner. I put it like in a humidity dome, and now it's this. It has 4 beautiful, beautiful leaves, and I'm just so happy I didn't give up on it. Plus, it has awesome roots. It was definitely time for an upgrade. It was getting too big for this pot. Going back to watering, everything is just going to be specific to your house, your environment. I know that's not super helpful, but if you have like specific questions, just send me a DM, shoot me a comment below. I hope what I've said so far was helpful at least. While you're if you're repotting into a different sort of medium, like I'm moving from soil into sphagnum moss, you want to get as much of the soil off of the roots as possible, but you have to be really careful not to like tug too hard, or else the roots will just like pop off. So I know I'm going to get some questions about why I'm repotting from soil into moss. For Anthuriums specifically, they tend to do pretty well in like a chunky aeroid mix. But I have most of mine in moss and they love it. They're doing really, really well. They're putting out new growth almost every month. So I think these guys will also really love it. So I'm just gonna put some moss in the bottom of each net pot. Put the plant in and put moss around to stabilize. Something else I get questions about a lot and that I saw on this last Ask Me Anything on Instagram was humidity. What plants need humidity? Why does this plant not? Why does this plant? Questions like that. Here it is. Again, this is going to be something that's tailored specifically to your house. Many common plants that you can find at big box stores like Lowe's or Home Depot or your local nursery typically can adapt to just common household humidity. Some you can put into your kitchen or your bathroom because those areas of the house tend to have higher humidity because of like all the cooking and like the evaporation of the water. And they're gonna do better in those areas. Really, you just need to do some research before you buy your plants and see what sort of humidity levels they need just to make sure that you can care for it properly before you bring it home. I have an IKEA greenhouse and I keep a lot of my Anthuriums, some more rare philodendrons in there as well. They really like the extra humidity in like the 70% area or higher. So those plants, like this Anthurium, the Forgetii, would do fine like in the kitchen. It wouldn't grow as quickly as if it was in a greenhouse, but it would do okay. So you could keep one and keep it in your kitchen and it would live. Again, it just depends on where you live. Somebody that lives in Florida is gonna have a more humid area than I live in Utah. It's very dry here, so I have to keep the humidity up. So again, it depends on where you live, depends on the conditions of your house, and it also just depends on the plant you're purchasing. I always recommend doing research on any sort of plant before you purchase it, just to make sure you're able to care for it. That way you're not wasting your money or your time before you get it. It's always fun to get challenging plants. Like if you have gotten a plant that was harder to care for and you did really well keeping it alive, definitely try a different plant, but make sure you do your research before you get it. I think that's super important. That way you feel good, your plant feels and looks good, and then everybody's happy. So I finished repotting my plants. This one, I think he's got a root popping out right here. I think that he needs a bigger net pot. I might just do that off camera, but they're both potted. I'm gonna find some decorative pots in my garage to put them in. That way they're not just in these net pots and looking all kind of ugly, really. And yeah, I hope that this repotting video and answering some of your questions was helpful. Let me know if you'd like to see more videos like this. If you have any questions or ideas for me, leave them in the comments below. Please be sure to like and subscribe to my channel. You can also find me on Instagram. I post content there almost daily. Thanks so much for watching. Happy planting!